Thank you for having us here today. So, I think the main thing I was hoping to help convey to the people who are watching and paying attention here is talking about some of your inspiration for what, maybe some philosophies of life, maybe some advice, but in terms of being a visionary in the artistic world, you are somebody who has thought on a grand scale, wanting to help and inspire an entire industry, an entire economy, an entire economic ecosystem, and not just one little field. So it is thrilling to be part of the 4A Arts community, and a community that we hope to grow exponentially. But where did it all begin? And what I'm curious about of where it began is, where did it begin for you as a child when you were inspired in cultural ways to pursue an artistic life?
I don't think it was a thought process. I think it was an instinct process. Mm-hmm. And you didn't question yourself as a child as why you were interested in A and not B or C. It just is that's what you wanted to do. And I think that happens to pretty much everybody. I think that's pretty universal. And the arts, I mean, for me, is the earliest memories, of course, is the mind thinking about things of the world which you didn't know the answers to, right? Why am I here? What's it all about? And then that kind of creativity in terms of looking for solutions or trying to understand things happens in two ways. One is 2 and 2 is 4. Yeah, they're right. 2 and 2 is 4. And the other is, why did I stop breathing when I saw that person dance or act or that Van Gogh painting? And that's the other. And sometimes they come together, and you can see parents saying to children, well, is that practical? I mean, this isn't what you should be doing in your life. You're going to need to be making money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think it's important that we start early as possible with children, giving them creative opportunities to develop their own paths and their own desires, and rather than instructing them on what to do.
Do you remember the first time you had your breath taken away by something you were witnessing and experiencing?
Oh, my second grade experience? We had this wonderful teacher in second grade who said, I'm going to teach you what she referred to as the Indian rain dance. And she taught it to us. And then she said, next Friday, we're going to do it outside on the grass for the grown-ups and the other classes. And there we are. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon. There's not a cloud in the sky. And we're doing our toe heel in the circle. And all of a sudden, I see there's a cloud on the horizon. And that cloud gets right over us and starts to drizzle on me. And I remember thinking, you know, this dancing is powerful stuff. And the next time, I remember in the 4th grade seeing in a book a picture of a Van Gogh painting when he was in southern France. Mm-hmm. And it just jumped out and hit me. Literally, I could feel it. And then also in the 4th grade, the 6th grade was doing the opera Aida, and they came to the 4th grade looking for 4 boy dancers to do the slave dance in the opera, and I got picked. And as a result of that performance, they took us all to the 1939 New York City World's Fair. And there, the wonders of the world, television for the first time, just one miracle after another that they had in all these pavilions. And I thought, this is what dancing did to me. Look at that. Isn't that amazing, huh? So, and then I didn't see my first real live dance performance until the end of the Korean War, when I was a GI there. And a Korean friend took me to this huge warehouse space. I remember there was a big potbelly stove in the middle. And there was Madame Cho doing a traditional Korean dance. I can't remember the name of it. I wish I could. And that's what I did. I went like that. I just stopped breathing. And so every dance experience never left me, I think is the point. And but I still didn't logically think that this was something I was going to do. I mean, the most upsetting thing that ever happened to me in high school was in the senior year, they asked me to count all the votes for the senior book of who was the best looking, who was the prettiest, etc. And I didn't feel that I should vote for myself, stupid. And I lost best dancer, 5 votes to 4. So that took care of that angelic path right there.
Leave humility behind.
That's right. Yeah.
It's interesting to me that one of your takeaways is that dance and art brought you other experiences and opened the world to you. So in some cases, art and culture can be a means to an end, not just an end in itself. Sort of like you going to the World's Fair.
Art and culture and art education, to me, is the equivalent of food, of eating. It feeds that part of us which food cannot feed. And I think it is essential for every person, and especially every child, to be able to experience it, no matter what happens to them, to experience it. And we have not yet, in our country, in other countries, yes. Chuck Davis who died a few years ago, was a great African-American dancer, and he developed the African-American Dance Company. Anyway, he used to go to Africa every year, and he told me, in parts of Africa, they don't ask where you're from. They ask, what do you dance? And that tells them everything they need to know about you. Okay. So my point in that is that there are parts of the world are very aware of the importance of the arts as a full flow energy source and path to growing up.
Mm-hmm. So all of these experiences you had that opened your world and helped you travel and opened your eyes to so many things, you didn't continue dancing yourself, did you?
No. Growing up, I didn't know you could be a dancer. I only saw dance in the movie screen. Mm-hmm. You know, it's Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, right? That's what I didn't know that actual people had companies and they performed with them, and people went to performances for dance. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Do you really want to hear how it happened?
Of course.
Coming back from Korea, I thought I was supposed to be a lawyer. So I went to NYU Law School, and I'm living with a bunch of guys, one who's became my closest friend. We were GIs together in Korea. And we lived on 92nd Street, just off Riverside Boulevard. And in this tiny little apartment, there were 4 of us who could all type 60 words a minute. So Brown Steno Service, which was the big office temp agency in those days, loved to call us. And so I called them and I said, look, I'd like a job on Saturday. And they said, go to this address. I go to the address and the office is closed. So I call back Brown Steno Service and the woman answers and she says, oh, we're closed today, but I just came in to check the mail and you were supposed to go to them on Monday. I said, I can't, I got classes on Monday. She said, well, a woman just called, look, asking if we had anybody, and I said no, but here's the address, go there. And I went there. My life changed when I walked in that door. It was Bennett and Pleasant. Richard Pleasant was the founder of ABT, of American Ballet Theater. Isadora Bennett was the most beloved manager, publicist in the dance and theater world. And there I am typing envelopes so they can send out releases and stuff. The end of the first day, Dick comes up to me and says, Isadora Bennett likes you. Will you work for us part-time? I said, absolutely. That's when the world changed. First of all, from a practical point of view, they not only paid me for the hours I worked, they would take me out for dinner and pay me for the hours of the dinner. Can you imagine that? So one day Dick picks up the phone and says, hi, Lee. Lee was his roommate at Princeton. We've got this young guy here. Thanks, Lee, I'll tell him. Charlie, here's the number to call if you want to see anything in the Schubert theaters. That was Lee Schubert. I was just talking to my own buddy. Okay, that gives you some idea how the doors started to open.
Yeah.
And back then, the modern dance scene was at 92nd Street Y. And so I was going with them all the time. And I remember one time, you know, modern dance was really an underground art form then. And I remember walking into a performance and I said to Dick and Izzy, look, in the 5th row, there's about 6 people there I've never seen before. Do you know them? And they said, no. And I said, see, the audience for modern dance is growing. So they taught me everything. And they just took care of me, and that's how I met Ted Shaw. Anyway, it just went from there, right?
Yeah. What an opportunity.
Yeah. And I realized that law was not for me after being in law school about 6 weeks or so, when I realized they weren't interested in right or wrong. They were only interested in the law. And right or wrong didn't really play a role. And I said, this is not for me. But I had to finish the year because I had some scholarships and the GI Bill.
Oh, yeah. So no regrets about not being a professional dancer yourself or not going into the law?
No. I mean, I was too old then. But I did everything but dance. And I mean, even backstage. There are too many stories, but I covered the roundabout of what possible work there was to be done in the arts. And I was living in Denmark for a while, and I was an extra on a film there. And the director didn't like who they had picked as a character actor, so he asked me to do it. And this is the director who made the film that won the Academy Award, Babette's Feast. This wasn't Babette's Feast, it was a previous, but he said to me at the end of that film, Reinhart, you weren't good. You were fabulous.
Oh, okay, even better.
But
that's amazing.
Yeah.
But and that also shows how, I mean, if you wanted to pursue an acting career right now, I'm sure you would sail in it. But so many of the arts, okay, the physical arts, where, like dance, for instance. I mean, you can dance your entire life. You can paint your entire life. You can find self-expression your entire life. So the arts it's just so vital that we set a really strong foundation for young people so that they do think in good times and bad, in old times and young, you always have something creative you can fall back on to fill your soul and frankly make the world a better place. More entertaining place, more beautiful place, more inspiring, self-reflective place.
If we're going to make the world a better place, we have to start with ourselves, don't we? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And our species has the good and the bad, right? Mm-hmm. We're capable of being good or we're capable of being bad given the circumstances. So that's a fight we always have, mm-hmm. to make sure we stay on the side that we feel good about, the right side, the mm-hmm. good side.
And arts and culture keep us on the good side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, again, the whole message is all of what we're talking about is out there. And the numbers of people involved are huge. But the cause aspect of it mm-hmm. has not really been formed in our country. In other countries, it exists. To be an artist in France, you're at the top ring of society. So it's that's what we need to do. And I think once we start ringing that bell, we're going to find people going, oh my God, that's right. That's what happened to me. Mm-hmm. Remember when I did X and then how I felt about that? So that's what it's about, a cause. For me, it's a cause.
That cause, that movement that you're referencing is what 4A's
that's right.
is about.
That's what
and your idea for creating 4A arts. Was there a moment for you that you thought, oh, what this country needs is 4A arts?
There was a moment, and I can remember feeling that moment. I can't remember when it was. Uh-huh. And it was a late moment in my life. It happened before I retired at ADF, the American Dance Festival, but it was in my last decade there. Mm-hmm. Because before I retired, I started to try to get other organizations who I thought could do it to do it, and they said no. So it was after I retired that I said, okay, now what can I do? And how do I make this happen? And, I just think, as I've said, remembering as a child the conditions of old people, and then being an old person today and seeing organizations like AARP changed our lives. Now I ride the buses, half fare, right? Etc. And I'm the senior citizen. I'm no longer an old person in an old person's home. Mm-hmm. That's an organization which 38 million members did that. Mm-hmm. And we have the potential of having more members than that. And when that happens, we can change the environment in this country and how we are perceived, how the arts are perceived, and get us up to that top floor. I can't name a country that doesn't have a cabinet position of arts and culture. Mm-hmm. Even small, impoverished countries have it. We don't have it.
That goes back to the point you made earlier, that the cause just hasn't formed here in the U.S. Why do you think that is?
I had dinner with a congressman who was on the arts committee, and I said, how often do you meet? He said, we only meet twice a year. And I said, well, what happens? He says, well, we want to make sure there's a few bucks in the budget for the National Endowment for the Arts. That's all. I said, that's the limit? Yeah, that's it. So what we need When I was at the Kennedy Center doing the dance programming, I was sitting on the board meeting. And that board was incredible because half of them were politicians in the Senate and in the House. And they were fighting for Kennedy Center. And I saw that vigor. And I thought, why isn't this for all the arts? Why is it just for the Kennedy Center? Yeah. I mean, what the Kennedy Center was doing was terrific. And what that board of politicians was getting out of the government for the Kennedy Center was sensational. But why couldn't it be broader?
And
that's why we need the cause, to say, hey, folks. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's not going to happen until the politicians feel that pressure, right? So it's about building the pressure upon them.
Yep.
And working with the advocacy groups that already exist in the arts across the country. There are 60, 70 of them, I think. It's incredible.
Yep.
Make their life easier, and this will turn around at the local, the regional, the state, and the federal levels.
Last question for now. One of the things that we've been talking about in the team of 4As right now is expanding the reach and almost the definition of what arts and culture is, because we don't want people to think that arts and culture is just modern ballet, modern dance, or that it's Picasso's, but actually there is such an important base of American creative expression that includes everything from quilting to hot rod painting to traditional step dancing, etc., and that every facet of America is based in creativity, and that there are so many elements of American uniqueness that comes through different forms of art. And what I'm getting at is that every American is an artist, and every American is an audience member, and that we want to dispel the notion that arts and culture is something fancy. Arts and culture is everyday life. Everyday life.
And it starts when you get up in the morning and you decide, should I wear this? Does this green shirt go with these black pants? That's an artistic decision, right? So we're making these decisions all the time without realizing, hey, that's an artistic choice. I'm an artist, right? That's it. And we just got to ring that bell, and folks, understand it.